Hello ship dippers, welcome to Retro Recipes. Now if you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that I have a bit of a soft spot for the Amstrad PCW 8256. But why is that, you might ask? It's just a word processor after all.
It's a personal word processor.
Well, not really. See, when my dad bought it to replace the Apple IIe, he got it for spreadsheets and of course word processing. But I discovered the wealth of games that were written for it because it was so popular. Of course, inside there is that powerful Zilog Z80 processor, same as the ZX Spectrum. But there's one problem that really stops me enjoying it today, and that is getting hold of those 3-inch floppy disks. Finding PCW games on eBay is a little tricky these days, and there's still some that I'm trying to hunt down. That was until today, because I've just been donated this. It's a Gotek solution, specially made for the Amstrad PCW. But the only problem stopping me enjoying that is, well, my hands are a little big to get inside those tiny drive bays. Now, I thought about employing Puppyfractic with her tiny paws, but she's got an important doggy business meeting to go to. But then it occurred to me, babe, how do you feel about installing a Gotek drive in an Amstrad PCW 8256?
Sure, I've done hundreds.
Oh, okay. Ow, sorry, can you get up? You're sitting on my 3-inch floppy. Oh, these things are hard. Yeah, you want a treat? Welcome to Perryfractic's Retro... Ladyfractic's Retro Recipes.
Welcome.
So we'll come to that installation in a few moments, but first, Puppyfractic wasn't always that big a fan of those 3-inch discs, as we'll find out after this commercial.
Unlike typewriters, the Amstrad 8256 word processor and computer comes with a monitor, disk drive and printer included. From around $1,099, it's leaving the future of typewriters up in the air.
It had 256 kilobytes of RAM. Oh, you don't like these? I know, they're a bit weird. They're 3-inch discs, not 3.5-inch. Alright, I'll get it away from you. Put it in there. No, food doesn't come out of those slots. Here, look, I'll show you where the light pen goes. And we explored this word processor's light pen feature using high-speed photography of a CRT screen. Let's freeze time. And from freezing time to going back in time with a quick bit of Amstrad history with Ashley. Do you know what Amstrad stands for?
Nope.
So it was founded by a gentleman called Alan Michael Sugar, AMS, and trad was for trading, so it was Alan Michael Sugar Trading.
That's my initials too.
What?
AMS.
What?
Mm-hmm. So I should get something in all of this.
I'll tweet him, see what he says.
All right.
Well, I did tweet him and I didn't get any reply. Can't think why. Any idea how many this sold?
7 million.
Pretty close, 8 million.
Oh, wow.
So what about those discs? Why were they so strange?
I've seen a floppy disk, but not this.
So these are 3.5-inch discs,
Mm-hmm.
but Amstrad used these because they were cheaper.
Oh, of course.
Of course. Good old Ashley Michael Sugar.
Insert?
Insert.
Okay.
Well, feel free to check out those Light Pen and Ashleyfractic videos at the end of this one. But before Ladyfractic rips out one of those drive bays, there is a really interesting story about this particular machine's disk drives that I want to share. I recently found this when I was going through some stuff at my parents' house. It was my original LocoScript disk, and I knew that on it were all of the files that I'd created in my teens. And I finally procured an 8256 in America, which is quite hard because they weren't very popular here. Put the disk in, and it reported disk unsuitable for drive. And then I remembered my dad had upgraded from the 8256 to the 8512. It had double the memory, 512 kilobytes, but also featured a high-density second disk drive. So I was able to finally procure one of those, actually from an Amstrad CPC, and install it in that second bay by removing this plate. Now I did that a while ago, so I didn't actually film the process, but finally I was able to access all of my teenage files. There's a lot of fun things on there, like my high score list from the Commodore 64 and other computer games. And I'd even written a lot of letters to Zap64. None of them ever got published. But I have heard a rumour that this letter might finally make it into the 2020 annual. Oh, exciting. Yeah, well, according to this, I was into modding Commodore 64s even when I was 14. And now that I've got that second drive installed, it's time to rip out the first one. And for that, I'm going to hand you over to the capable hands of Ladyfractic. But I'll be standing just in the wings to make sure she doesn't electrocute herself on that CRT and to give her a few pointers as we go. Tech.
And if you're thinking of making your own PCB like the Gotek, I recommend using PCB Way! And as we all know, PCB stands for Printed Circuit...
Personal Computer Bird Processor.
Personal Computer Bird Processor.
Thank you.
First, we're going to take the back off. Handy dandy assistant.
Yes. Thank you.
And as Bjork taught us, this looks like a city, like a little model of a city. But this city is a bit dusty, so let's give it a spring clean. It's snowing. So this is drive A, the one we're actually going to be working on. So first we're going to remove the power cable and the ribbon cable, very carefully. So we have 2 screws and a ground cable. It lives there now. And then we're just going to take the ground cable out from here. So, there's drive A. Put that on eBay.
Alright, can I have it back now? Oh. Okay, keep it.
So I've secured the ground cable to drive B because the Gotek doesn't use any metal. So these are the handy instructions that tell us where to apply the screws. So here's the Gotek. It's going to go straight down, just like that. 1 screw here, 1 screw there. Matches up with the case that we have. Should be pretty easy. It fits perfectly. and then just reconnect the cables. So this is going to connect to the power cable just as we had before. So the most important instruction, it said that when you take the old ribbon and the new Gotek rainbow ribbon, you want to make sure that the brown one, in our case it's on the far right, matches pin 1, which is the colored wire on the old ribbon. So we're just going to rotate it like that. And it should fit. Huh, it doesn't. So as we just noticed, it didn't work. So in the instruction, it says, please note that some of the black connectors on the PCW ribbon cable, usually ones with the blue wire on the ribbon, which is exactly what we have 2 plastic tabs protruding that prevent the ribbon cable being plugged into the adapter the correct way around. Wish me luck. All right, we're just going to plug this back in. Brown wire on the right, and perfect. Now we'll replace cable 2. There we go. Not bad. Okay, well, see, told you it was easy. We're just going to put the back on and test it out. See, I told you I've done it 100 times. Now that all the hard work's done, I'm going to give it to Perryfractic. He'll boot it up and see how it works.
Well, God bless her for doing that while she was recovering from the flu. I don't think PCWs can get viruses, can they? Well, either way, let's see if it works now with Mr. Ladyfractic. Put in the USB drive. Of course, with the USB, it's always the second way around. All right, here we go. Fantastic. So as the instructions explained, it boots you up with disk 1, which is CPM, and that's basically the standard boot disk of the PCW, and it gives you the well-known CPM plus prompt. So I can actually look at that disk, and all it's doing, of course, is reading the virtual disk image, which is on this USB drive. But if we cycle through these disks, we can see all the other games, and there's actually 150 games that have been archived onto this USB, and that'll give you all these games ready to go. It really is plug and play. So just for fun, I chose Guild of Thieves there, one of my favorite adventure games. Let's see what happens. And there it is. So you could run game.com and it should boot. I don't know about you, but there is something very majestic about this green screen. It was not only pretty high res, I mean it's an 80-column display effectively, but there's just something special about the dithering and just the way it looks. Maybe it's just my personal nostalgia. Now, unlike me, Mrs. Recipes has a proper job, but she did come home from work, albeit having lost her voice, and I asked her to choose a game.
Gnome Ranger.
This looks pretty cool, actually. Ingrid was beside a sturdy little stone-built shop at the end of a road which meandered north. Good to know. Exits lead north, northeast, east, and northwest.
You think we're friends, but you don't know me.
That says press any key.
Where's the any key?
I don't think this has one.
Ha. What now? Go north.
Ingrid went north. Well, we went on like this for a while, but really it was going gnome-ware. Sorry. But we didn't come here to play adventure games. I've been waiting maybe 30 years to boot up StarGlider on a word processor. And fingers crossed, I'm about to do that now. And while I cycle through the games, see if you recognize any. There it is. Okay. We'll go with Deutsch. No, just kidding. Oh, wait. I remember. In the instructions, Psychofox even very handily gives you some program protection codes, including StarGlider 5110 combined, which is what we've done here. Well, right now it's still a word processor, but okay. Woo! Wow, that is beautiful. Oh, and it's now the PCW is showing off. Here we go. My gosh. Yes. My first kill, guys. Whoop. Trying to launch a missile here. Yeah, these keys did not make it easy. Yes. Yes. And this, of course, is where this game got very Star Wars-y. Alright, let's try and get this tank. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes. Yes. Remember these guys? Through the legs. Well, this is definitely tricky without a joystick, so that may have to be my next addition. Okay, I'm going to come back to that sometime in the future, but Psychofox recommended a game called On the Run, so I'm going to see if I can load that up. How do we run this? So what we can do is get a disk queued up on the Gotek, and then on the keyboard we hit Shift Extra Exit, and that reboots the machine and loads that game. And there it is, On the Run. Collect the 7 flasks and bombs. If it moves, shoot it. Oh wow. Probably still look like I'm using a word processor, but I'm playing an amazing game. I'm sure it would have got very good reviews if it was this kind of quality. Even in green screen grayscale. Greenscale? I don't know. But of course there are many other games that we could enjoy. So, Pac-Mania is a recent port from the CPC version by Habi, and you might have wondered if all these games were indeed easy to port. Well, not really. You see, aside from the obvious lack of colour or a proper sound chip, programming the PCW's graphics was also very different, even though the machines share similar RAM structure and the same processor speed, floppy controller and the CP/M operating system. But that's what Habi has done here, so let's go to Blocktown and see how it looks. So I want you to imagine that you're 14 years old and your dad has a word processor and spreadsheet computer in the office that you get to use at night time. And imagine you find games like this exist. This is your only computer in the house. This is going to be, and it really was for me, such an enjoyable experience to play around on this unassuming but majestic device. So I hope you've enjoyed coming with me and Ladyfractic and Puppyfractic on this little journey to prove that there really are great games that you can play on a word processor. And with a little ingenuity, it can even become a portable games machine. That's all for this time, but as always, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on the future recipodes coming up. And as always, I appreciate any support you're able to give this small retro channel on the Patreon. I will see you next time. What do you think about these word processing games? Comment below, and cheerio. PCB way!
PCB 1!